We're in the home stretch here. Subchapter E. This is just some rules for administration, consolidated returns. And so in subchapter in section 1641, it says that until the rules get updated, the existing stuff sort of applies. It applies to individuals. If you have to file business tax returns with your individual returns, and you're subject to estimated taxes already, you'd also be subject to estimated tax rules under the value-added tax. 1642 is consolidated returns. If you're a business with many legal entities, you can file consolidated returns. You just have to be consistent about it. So if you have a lot of vertical integration, and you produce the raw materials and then turn them into finished products in your factories, you just have to be consistent about where you pay the value-added tax. That's on the from start, for the cost of your things at the very beginning to the actual sale to the end consumer, or if you report them each individual legal entity. So just be consistent. 1643 clarifies that the seller is liable for the tax. Again, if you're generally required to pay estimated liability for a taxable period, same thing applies here. In general, that taxable period is a quarter, but you could do it on a monthly basis as well. The point at which the tax is triggered is when you receive the payment for it. Sorry, the earlier of when you receive the payment, or when you record the income from the sale. In the case of imports, it's when they actually get to the United States, or taken out of the warehouse after arriving in the United States. 1644 is just forming the secretary of any changes in your business entity if it's going to affect how the value-added tax is administered. And then 1645 is the standard. Secretary shall prescribe such regulations as may be necessary to carry out the purposes of this chapter. And Mr. Chair, I think that concludes my testimony for all of section 452, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Fantastic. Yes. Do you foresee the value-added tax encouraging or incentivizing companies to become more vertically integrated?
It shouldn't matter. If you, for example, you own a forest and you chop down a tree, sell the tree, and then turn that tree into lumber, whether it's the price that it ultimately gets sold for, subtracting whatever your original input was. So if the company that chops down if you own the company that chops down the tree, then sort of in the same way that the value-added tax works in Europe, right, where everybody's value-added tax kind of gets passed up the chain. And so if you're a vertically integrated company, then you're just responsible for all those links in the chain, as opposed to if you're not a vertically integrated industry, then you'll be paying to the separate businesses at each stage of production. So it still adds up the same. I don't think there's any incentive to be more vertically integrated. These next three sections are pretty short. Section 453, it just requires that the secretary give Congress a legislative proposal to harmonize everything in 452 with the existing Internal Revenue Code and offer any statutory definitions that are needed. And that's what section 453 does. And section 454 is just sort of lays out what companies are supposed to do until Congress actually enacts that legislative proposal, and it just sends out the basic rules of saying how these amendments should be treated until that time. And that's what section 454 does. And section 455 is once again just the effective dates, saying this goes into effect January 1, 2024, but respect tax years beginning on that date. And once again reiterates there's no cheating if you're a business with a 52 or 53 week taxable year, that you've got to you can't restructure things in a way to try and create a loophole That's all that section 455 does. Make sure that was a long hearing. It's important to know that the details are there. This isn't a nebulous proposal that candidates for office often make. Blueprint for a Better America is a very specific legislative package, a very specific proposal for how we can end poverty, end mass incarceration, and the endless wars.